Kentucky Derby.
The turn, the leader, War Admiral 2.5 for clean.
Next brigade is in the center of the racetrack. The Admiral sloop drawing alongside again.
War Emblem is still there. War Emblem is pulling away. He's got another gear. Yeah, the French they come in the Derby. Wheel away takes command. Blood and heart is all heart. Smarty Jones is all out. And here is the first undefeated winner of the Kentucky Derby since Seattle's Blow of 1979.
And a good morning from Churchill Downs here in the Ville. You can see the sun rising on the east end of the city as morning workouts presented by TwinSpires.com excuse me, kicks off with a fast track and another pleasant day beneath the Twin Spires. Temperatures in the lower 50s to start the day. Warmed up nicely yesterday, figures to do again today. So far the weather seems pretty good as we lead our way into the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks next weekend. Some works yesterday, some arrivals, lots going on here Derby Week. Coal Battle at Meyer Daytona both breezed yesterday. We'll talk about those workouts. But maybe the biggest story yesterday was the arrival of Kentucky Derby favorite Journalism here at Churchill Downs yesterday afternoon. Luxor Cafe expected to arrive tonight. Horses coming and going. That's what happens as we lead into that first Saturday in May. And a surprise arrival of Rodriguez and Tenma. We thought they'd be getting here a little bit later on. Citizen Bull will be getting here to Churchill Downs tomorrow, the last year's two-year-old champion, and of course Kentucky Derby and Oaks to be drawn during Saturday night's opening card, first post Saturday, 5 p.m. That card is drawn. There's no turning back now. Racing coming to Churchill Downs as soon as Saturday. Speaking of coming to Churchill Downs, that's what Journalism did yesterday. Journalism widely expected to be the morning line and likely post-time favorite off his, frankly, just impressive resume out on the West Coast, winning the Santa Anita Derby, overcoming some trouble in there, running good figures while doing so. Trainer Michael McCarthy, glowing reviews of all of his training and racing so far. And it's just going to come down to some racing luck, a good trip, and depending on how that pace plays out, whether or not he's going to be close to it or off of it, Journalism just widely expected to be that favorite and is most certainly the horse to beat in the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby coming up next week. Today, Wednesday, though, we are 10 days out. Travis Stone for Churchill Downs, joined by Kevin Kilroy. Good morning.
Morning, Travis. Great to have you on the desk with us. Great to join you here. Great to get up early and watch these horses. I mean, what could be better, right?
I don't know about the getting up early part. It's not really totally my style. I'm an early person, but I don't like to be out and about. I like to sort of mope around the house for a little bit. But, I mean, we're in it. It's 10 days out, and we were saying before we went on the air, a lot of times these workouts leading up to the Kentucky Derby tend to fall on Friday and Saturday. But we've had a steady diet of midweek action this week. We're going to have some workers today, too. Yeah,
we're great. We had Quick Kick earlier in the morning, that Tom Amos filly in the Oaks, and we're going to get to see Sandman, right? That air guitar, that star that's going to take a lot of money. My Boy Jack sort of stuff. I think you were talking about that yesterday. We're going to get some of that fan money behind that one. Maybe we'll see Built working out. We'll see if Catman brings that one out. Admire Daytona, Coal Battle, and La Cara yesterday. You got to wonder, are they going to shift and try to get a little bit earlier for their final breeze? Monday, Tuesday, Sunday? What are they going to do midweek? Doesn't keep with that sort of typical one week to race schedule that we see.
A little bit of a possible front rolling through this weekend, too, which could alter that schedule. On the backstretch here at Churchill Downs, the getting busier every day backstretch is Megan Burgess.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is certainly a brisk 52 degrees back here. We've seen a lot of horses feeling fun and fresh this morning. Everybody's on their toes, and the weather certainly permits that. But you mentioned it. Hurricane Journalism has made landfall, a colt that a lot of people are going to be eager to see him take to the track. Mike McCarthy mentioned yesterday he was very happy with the way he traveled. He got a bath yesterday. I heard he watched some Netflix as well. But we also had the arrivals of Rodriguez and Tenma there for the Bob Baffert Brigade. Citizen Race and Bull will be expected to get here tomorrow, but Kentucky Oaks contender Quick Kick has already taken to the track and completed her move. And then you got to enter Sandman here for the Cassie Barn. He will be putting in his highly anticipated final drill prior to the Kentucky Derby. So a very big morning. The stage, guys, is certainly being set as we look forward to a very serious weekend this weekend here in Louisville.
Thank you, Megan. Megan owes $1 to the Enter Sandman bucket. Every time we hear Enter Sandman this week, you got to pay $1.
Yeah, it's not a Triscuit box like we used to do. That ended
exactly.
wrong. So
yeah, Sandman, of course.
We'll do something secret.
Right, named after the Metallica song, and they sent some gear to the Cassie Barn in celebration of Sandman's Kentucky Derby attempt coming up next week. Sandman is one of 20 plus looking to run in this year's Kentucky Derby. The field is mostly set. We know who's at least going to be in for now. There's some drama around some AEs. We'll talk about that in a moment, but talk about a stacked leaderboard.
Yeah, stacked leaderboard. You know, Travis, one of the things I like to look at is, have you run fast enough to win the Derby? It's hard to move forward in that first Saturday in May. The top four, Burnham Square, Sandman, Journalism, Rodriguez, all have, and then Tappan Street, Sovereignty. I think those are serious contenders that I'm going to be using on top of my tickets. Toward
the bottom of that list, you can see Luxor Cafe at Meyer Daytona. They earned starting spots in the Kentucky Derby through special road to the Kentucky Derbies overseas. Built is on this list. We're not certain he's running, but the real story is what comes on page number 3. A couple of AEs are also eligibles, as we say in horse racing, including Baeza. There's a lot of sharps out there that want to play this horse in the Kentucky Derby, but they might not get to unless some things shake out for them.
Yeah, things have to work out for Baeza to drive in. I mean, this is a horse that's run fast enough, definitely falls in that category to win the Derby, doesn't need to move forward. Distance, Sheriffs has always said, is his friend. He should appreciate the mile and a quarter.
Cole Battle was 9th on that first page of the leaderboard for good reason. He's just done very little wrong all fall and all spring for trainer Lonnie Briley, arguably the coolest story of this year's Derby.
Yeah, Lonnie Briley is just one of these horsemen who's, his first greatest stakes start was that win in the Rebel with Cole Battle, and he's along for a great ride. Now, Cole Battle is an interesting horse in terms of he's won at Remington Park, Evangeline Downs, Delta Downs, obviously Oaklawn Park, ran very well Kentucky Downs, tough trip, and I think he would have won if he would have had a clean trip. So, Travis, he brings his track with him. That's not the case with every horse. It's something you want to keep in mind. And we're seeing him sort of fall into Churchill Downs and really start to excel here. I think every day he comes to the track, he's just a little bit more full of himself, a little bit more touting himself in the mornings, and he put a big move together yesterday. This was a true half-mile drill, and what I mean when I say that is the rider stood up after the wire, and the rest is just the gallop out on his own. He had his neck bowed at the beginning of it, really showing his confidence, and he goes easily with just a little bit of a nudging forward from Bethany Taylor, the rider. So gives a fast time, moving very well. I think this is a horse that is falling in love with the grounds here at Churchill Downs.
Lonnie Briley said earlier in the week that a lot was going on in that Arkansas Derby, whether it be having to saddle him on the walk, maybe moving a little bit too early into that pretty sharp pace. This workout, though, is interesting. We spoke with Bethany Taylor and Lonnie Briley following it yesterday.
Moved really nicely across the track this morning. I'm still kind of getting used to this track being a little faster than Oaklawn, where we come from. So I knew he worked good. I wasn't sure that I didn't know that he had worked as good as he did. But no, he felt great. He did everything right. And he galloped out really nicely.
He seems to like this surface, and every work, he's had 3 works, and every one's better and better and better, And he's not a big workhorse, so for him to work 47, that's very odd, and normally he'll work 48, 49, and then he'll come back bucking and kicking like, haha, I did. But he went very well this morning, galloped out good, and he has one more little prep work before the race.
So it sounds like we might see Cole Battle do a little something else between now and the Kentucky Derby. I thought the interesting part of that quote, though, was the very odd statement.
Yeah.
The horse worked fast. I can't tell, trying to read between the lines, which we're all trying to do this week, as you can see, Lonnie Briley is one of 4 first-time trainers in this Kentucky Derby. We'll talk about that in a second, but that very odd comment to me is interesting. We're trying to figure out what they're saying. We're trying to find whatever angle we can. Did that mean it was very odd because it was impressive, or very odd because it was too fast?
Well, he keeps on talking about how Cole Battle trains himself. right? So it's a matter of him doing what he wants to do in the mornings. And he wanted to go fast, and he did go fast. He also said that maybe he was one work short ahead of that Arkansas Derby, and that's not going to be the case for this Kentucky Derby.
He and Ethan West, North American-based trainers making their Kentucky Derby debuts, horses and chances of a lifetime, and so was Admire Daytona's trainer, Yukihiro Kato, who's going to start Admire Daytona, who figures to, I don't want to say he's going to be on the lead. The horse has some real speed, though.
Yeah, he does have speed. He also, he was feeling himself in the starting gates there. He was grabbing the ground ahead of him in the starting gate, and he was ready to send. He had that rail spot, and he was able to take advantage of it. He dug in really well. We've seen him come from off of it before, too, so I don't think he needs to be in the lead at all. He's been one that, in terms of how he's been moving in the morning, in terms of what we've been watching and waiting for, this is something that's left us, scratching our heads a little bit. Is he training forwardly? Is he moving forward? What is he doing? What we're hearing from the connections is that he, like Cole Battle, trains himself. He does what he wants to do. He went as fast as he wanted to. They let him do his thing in the move. Although slow, this is the same way that they trained him up to the UAE Derby. And he obviously ran very well there. So this is their version of maintenance, how the barn is handling it. So I think Admire Daytona is doing his best.
53-1 is not a breeze time we're used to seeing here stateside. Just adds another puzzle to figuring out these horses. Kate Hunter, who travels around the world with these horses coming from Japan, spoke with us yesterday following Admire Daytona's 53-1 breeze.
He settled in really, really well, considering that the UAE Derby was a week later than normal. He's just been in fantastic condition, knock on wood. So today he turned in his first little bit of speed work, but they decided to kind of do it the way they did in Dubai, which is let the horse decide how fast he wanted to breeze. So some people might be like, whoa, that was slow. But it worked for him in Dubai. He came out of the UAE Derby so well that it's mostly just trying to make sure he keeps the condition that he's got. So yeah, he'll be coming out. He won't be out tomorrow because he had his little breeze today, but every other day he'll be out there.
Admire Daytona, of course, coming from Japan. They're going to win a Derby someday. I think you could argue they should have won it last year.
Yeah.
If you run that race 100 times, they certainly win their fair share with Forever Young just missing. But all in all, a fairly solid showing so far for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we still with Luxor Cafe, which, the proven best commodity in between. Admire Daytona and Luxor Cafe. It'd be exciting to see how they train, how he's doing. He could be the major shot. Forever Young, I remember this one also training very relaxed, very easy, not moving quite so sharp last year. So this could be a sort of similar maintenance sort of lead up to the Derby that we're seeing from Admire Daytona.
I think one of the interesting things when you talk about playing and gambling on these Japanese horses is the real good ones are going to get bet. The one they win with is probably the one nobody bets. Ooh. And you actually finally might get some value on a horse like Luxor Cafe in the 15 to 20 to 1 range. There's a good pass replay between him and Admire Daytona where they threw it down. They were 12 lengths ahead of the rest of the field. If you haven't found that yet, go dig it up as you do your Derby handicapping. It's an interesting race to get some sort of gauge on them. We don't need a gauge on this trainer, however, who wins races all around North America. He's got the favorite in the Oaks. He's got real contenders in the Kentucky Derby. Brad Cox is on the backstretch with Megan.
Well, very lucky to be joined by Kentucky Derby winning trainer Brad Cox, one of the busiest men you'll find. So very excited to be joined by him today. Grade 1 winner to Pan Street, wins the Florida Derby, a very progressive son of Into Mischief. And you mentioned with Kentucky Derby winner Mandaloon, you knew what you had in him prior to the race. What has this colt been able to show you down in Florida and now amidst his final prep?
He's been very steady in the morning. We liked him first time out. He was able to get it done going 7/8. Kind of chased a little bit early in the race and stayed on well. Always thought he'd go long. Obviously ran a big race in the Holy Bull. I think when he hit the lead in the Holy Bull, turning for home, just kind of lost interest a little bit with no target, and then was able to put it all together in the Florida Derby.
This colt you mentioned has kind of been ridden along in his races and has been responsive when Louis has called upon him. Do you find his running style lends to this distance?
Yeah, he can handle it. I don't think there's any doubt he'll be able to handle the mile and a quarter with a good trip. I mean, that's the story with all of them. They have to get favorable trips, comfortable trips. But he's a good gate horse. I think he'll be able to break, put himself in the position Louis needs him or wants him to be in, and hopefully, he responds.
You mentioned trip. That's what the Kentucky Derby is all about. What post position would satisfy you with this colt? Do you find his tactical ability a weapon wherever he lands?
I think with his gate speed, yeah, I think he should set a good trip as long as he gets away well, like we would expect him to. And I'm not certain with post. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the other speed in the race, where they're drawn, things like that. But I guess you'd always say somewhere between 8 and 12 is probably good. But we'll see. We'll play whatever hand we're dealt. Bottom line.
Final gambit, another lightly raced colt, winner of the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Brad, you've had tremendous success with Juddmonte. What has this colt been able to show you in the mornings, and with his pedigree in there as well? Does it encourage coming into a race like the Kentucky Derby?
A lot of stamina in the pedigree, and just the way he trains, and what he did going a mile and an eighth there at Turfway. The distance shouldn't be an issue. I love the way he's trained on the dirt. I mean, listen, it's a question mark, but we've had a lot of other good horses that were able to transfer their form off the Turfway strip over to the dirt with Encino, Idiomatic, and several others. So, I'm confident that we'll get a good effort out of him on the dirt. Once again, has a lot to do with trip and, how fast they're going up front. So we'll see.
We mentioned Good Cheer, your favorite coming into the Kentucky Oaks. You know what it takes to win this race. She's been a class act through 6 undefeated starts, but you mentioned unfinished business with her. What do you mean by that? And what are some potential vulnerabilities she might face next Friday?
Well, I think, she's accomplished a lot to have not won a Grade 1, right? But, I mean, she's never had an opportunity. So we'll see next Friday. I'm excited about the position she's in. And, in regards to her vulnerability, I don't know. I think that she handles a wet track, a fast track. She's beat everybody, cleared off when doing it that she's run against, and hopefully we can see more of the same. I will say this: she's another one that I've always thought the longer the better. So she's going to get another 16th of a mile next Friday. That I think's definitely, as long as she gets a good trip, no bumps in the road, she'll be fine.
We always want to see your horses do well during the Kentucky Derby week. Has she taken a step forward? Have you seen her do that coming off of her fairgrounds prep?
She's training awfully well. Her work this past week was, I loved it. I wasn't expecting her to go quite that quick, but she just cruised around there, and she's on it. She's ready to roll. She stood in the gate a couple times since her last race. She'll probably stand one more time next week, but she's ready to roll. She's doing great.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know there are a lot of folks out there that will be rooting on Team Cox to be physically in front, whether it be the Kentucky Derby or the Kentucky Oaks. So best of luck to Team Cox in that endeavor. We know you're going to be locked and loaded going into next week.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Reading between the lines there, Brad is a fairly reserved fellow.
Yeah.
That was quite the confidence boost if you wanted to back Good Cheer.
Good Cheer, yeah.
You can just tell he's raving about how she's training. He loved her breeze. It feels like, he's obviously got a lot of chances this weekend, but man, he was bullish on her.
Yeah, it was great to see her in the Fairgrounds Oaks, not have to come from off of it and make that sort of swooping mood. Showed that rate ability to move a little bit forward. Louis Saez up on her, a perfect fit. Good Cheer going well. And I thought that was a confidence boost for Tapan Street, one that I've got on top of my Derby list. Can get the distance, again, has a great running style. And we saw Sovereignty chasing that one home, never even got past in the gallop out.
Yeah, and if you listen to what he said about Tapan Street, too, the horse, if you watch his replays, he's just getting better and better and better. Certainly going to be a major player come Saturday. A week from Saturday, I should say.
I think so, too.
The twin spires of Churchill Downs. As the sun rises on the east end, Churchill Downs, a little more on the west side of Louisville, Kentucky. There's Lacara. We'll talk about her and some others when we come back after this break.
What was Cassie's filly last year?
Place your bets with Twin Spires Handicapping Insights, our expert picks, or just by choosing a name that catches your eye. No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires. Get your money back if your horse finishes second or third in eligible races.
The Kentucky Derby. Woodford Reserve Bourbon is a spectacle for the senses.
And you can see the tractors on the main track here at Churchill Downs. Harrowing, the process is called. Grooming the track. We have several training periods every morning, and they take care of the racetrack with some breaks in between, so it's a nice fresh surface, and it's a fresh surface for Oaks and Derby horses in particular. They're the only ones that are going to be allowed on the racetrack during the designated training time for both of them. Both the Oaks and Derby horses slightly delayed this morning as they worked their way through the harrows on the main track at Churchill. 1 mile all the way around. The Derby starts at the top of the stretch with a very pivotal 2 furlong run to that first turn.
Yeah, you know that better than anybody. That the way, the shape of it, right?
It's everything. It's all about that opening 2 furlongs. It is a pivotal and critical part of that Kentucky Derby each and every year. The Kentucky Oaks also starts in the home stretch, but it starts at mid-stretch, just before those Twin Spires. And this year's Kentucky Oaks, it feels like it's good cheer, and then who can beat good cheer?
Yeah, who can beat good cheer? And if you want to take a swing against, I don't blame you. I love taking a swing against favorites. I do think that good cheer is the one. But Quiet Side has done a little wrong. She's proven her gameness over Simply Joking. She's working very well. I think she's super dangerous. Horse like Fondly, just have a few races from that Grand Motion trainee. She could be moving forward, could be a surprise. And Anna's Promise, they put up the money to get her in here. She ran a big figure last out. If she can hold form, she can make some noise.
LaCara, who had shown some ability here at Churchill Downs last year, has been a little bit in and out of form. She's a couple of clunkers here or there. She put it all together last time out in the Ashland with a decisive wire-to-wire victory. She worked yesterday, and I don't want to overstate it. Worked might not be the right word. She blazed them. I mean, she went 46 seconds flat. I think she surprised everybody. Glowing reviews over this move.
Yeah, this was great. I heard you guys talking about this yesterday. Her ears, to notice the horse's ears in the move. They're comfortable and relaxed and doing it within themselves when they have that one ear flopping, right? That's sort of like going back and forth in terms of listening and paying attention to what's going on, waiting for cues, etc. We're seeing that early on in this move, and that she really pins them back and sets down a big run down the stretch. And I think coming out, you would think maybe 46 seconds through a half mile that she would sort of be toast, but she keeps her high cruising speed going throughout the next 3 furlongs. So I think that she surprised me on this. I was wondering when we were going to see her work. I was sort of thought there was a pause for concern to fade LaCara, that we hadn't seen her breeze since her run of the Ashland. So this was a big move. This impressed me.
Let's hear what Mark Cassey had to say.
I thought it was super. It was a little quicker than I liked, but she was in such a nice rhythm. I decided midway through the work not to slow her down. We had a radio on the rider, and we told them, I'm happy, just keep doing what you're doing. And she went well. You got to see today how much she likes Churchill Downs, and I think she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. She's bigger and she's stronger. Her Ashland win was very good. In January, I asked Tracy Farmer, what do you want to do? And he said, I would love to win the Ashland. So everything we did going up to the Ashland was to work towards that goal. And then, of course, this next one's pretty big.
Would love to win the Ashland. I think once you do that, you'd love to win the Oaks next for Tracy Farmer and that homebred LaCara. Quick Kick. Trainer Tom Amos is a Kentucky Oaks winning trainer when Serengeti Empress popped the gate and went wire to wire. Quick Kick worked today with Edgar Morales, clocked out 101.2 and 6 furlongs out and 114.1. This is not a particularly fast horse. She likes to come from off the pace. In fact, in 3 of her last 4 starts, she was 7th or worse, often double digits behind early in the race. We will hear from Quick Kick late in the race, if at all, in the Oaks.
Yeah, so she's with Lady Orient here on the inside. And spoiler alert, Travis, she doesn't get past until the backstretch. But she evens up with the workmate. I thought she moved easily. I thought she was moving well on the track. I think Quick Kick is going to be a big long shot in here. It's hard for me to get behind her, but I thought this was a nice move. She's been keeping her regular routine of getting to the track early in the mornings for Amos, so this is about the time that she's been showing herself every morning. But we really haven't seen her move forward as a 3-year-old. As a 2-year-old, obviously she was a big threat, Breeders' Cup runner, etc. But she is one that hasn't proven that she's moved forward. Fairgrounds Oaks was tough company with Good Cheer and others, but this was in hand. This was a nice, easy move. I think Tom's got to be very pleased with this.
Yeah, she's lost to LaCara, she's lost to Quiet Side, she's lost to Good Cheer. She obviously has to take a step forward, but she did at least, in some numbers, run back to her 2-year-old top in her most recent Fairgrounds Oak 4th place finish. Maybe she gets some pace. There is some speed on paper in the Kentucky Oaks, which would be good for her. Speaking of workouts, Sandman is scheduled to work today. It's coming up here momentarily. This is a horse that I'm going to go out and say is going to be a clear-cut second favorite come post time. It just feels like the My Boy Jack of this year, the gray. Mark Casse, always good for a good quote. It's going to get some bettors to stir up and put some money down. Sandman, he'll be coming from off the pace, much like Quick Kick.
Yeah, he is good for a good quote. He's going to talk about all sorts of things with this horse that are going to get the bettors excited. And, you know, the whole Metallica story, etc., is very intriguing for the bettors. So Sandman is one that we just have to wonder about the greenness, right? Gate issues, you know, in a few of his races down at Oaklawn. Gets lost when he does get the lead last out in the Arkansas Derby. But I did like the way Jose Ortiz was able to get him straight and get him back to business after getting lost. And he really still kept that advantage over that late kick publisher. So Sandman has been looking very good on the track. You can see the way he holds himself. This is kind of true to a Tappet, and he is going to show us something today. So I'm excited to see this move and see if we have a real sense of whether Sandman is moving forward, holding form, etc.
That was a spectacular Arkansas Derby. The horse is 0-3 at Churchill. We'll talk more about that, as Mark Casse did with us with Sandman.
Not a lot. You know, we already know that he's good. We're just going to let him stretch his legs. Not going to look for a whole lot, and we're just going to do the same thing that we've done for the last 3 or 4 months. We're not going to change anything. So we're not looking for anything spectacular. Just let him stretch his legs. He does a lot. Anybody that's watched him train, see, he puts a lot into his gallops, and he's a wonderful moving horse, and he's an athlete, and we're not going to take him out of his game.
Sandman, he did put it all together in Arkansas Derby, Kevin, but he did have a pace at which to close into. Same could be said for Cole Battle, though he might have moved a little bit early. If you like Sandman, you can obviously bet him in the Kentucky Derby itself, or you can get involved in some what they call handicapping tournaments, including a fairly significant one, the $250,000, $250,000 Kentucky Derby betting challenge coming up this year. In addition to the prize pool, you can get some Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge seats to next year. You can get a couple of NHC seats, BCBC seats. If you're in the handicapping tournament space, you know what those mean. If you haven't played in tournaments, they're a lot of fun. It's a different sort of spin on gambling on horse racing.
Yeah, this is a big card to take swings in. You're going to get good prices with such huge pools that we get on the Kentucky Derby Day. And you got a lot of fish in the water, right? So it's a really good opportunity to take a swing, whether you're playing the tournament or not. But I think this is the new major, BCBC, NHC, and now we got the KDBC, $5,000 to get involved.
Twinspires.com is where you can get involved in that. There's more than just Oaks and Derby. We have horse racing all week long here at Churchill Downs. An opening night comes up on this Saturday, first post slated for 5 p.m. And a few hours into that evening, you can then tune in, and we're going to draw I should say a couple hours, not a few hours. We're going to draw the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby right in the middle of it. So come out here on Saturday, and you'll find out where horses like Sandman, Tapan Street, and the others will start in the Kentucky Derby 1 week from Saturday. But first off, opening night. Opening night, always a fun night here in Louisville.
Oh, it's such a fun night. It really just, the whole town that comes together, and of course everybody in from out of town. Come out and join us here in Travis's voice through the rafters, the historic rafters here at Churchill Downs. Just gives you shivers up and down your spine. So come join us for opening night.
When we talk about post position, it matters quite a bit, particularly when it comes and you interact it with running style. You want to have speed horses to the outside, not get bottled up inside. And speaking of speed, Owen Almighty, who was in, then out, and is now back in, has some speed. I wonder how much speed he's going to show in the Kentucky Derby.
I think that's a big question. I mean, if you are sort of wondering, like, all right, do we want to be here? Do we think we can win? Do you want to go all out and possibly sort of, cook your horse in terms of this being a good horse moving forward? So Owen Almighty is definitely a wild card, but could definitely prompt a very hot pace.
I can never disparage somebody taking a shot in the Kentucky Derby when they have other options they can cut back into later in the year. We'll see Owen Almighty and others as we come back to the workout show here from Churchill.
As they head to the backstretch, it's a tight pack.
He's going to pull ahead. The Twin Spires expert picks were all optimistic.
You've got the best speed rating in the field. Don't fail me now.
Man, I love this horse's name.
And from far behind, here comes Frank. It's neck and neck. Frank is winning. Frank wins!
Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with Twin Spires, the official betting partner of the Kentucky Derby. Get your money back if your horse finishes second or third in eligible races.
And welcome back to the Ville, and welcome back to Churchill Downs as morning workouts presented by Twin Spires continues. And there is a look, hard to figure out who that is. No, it's not. Sandman.
Yeah.
Enter Sandman. I just plopped $1 in that jar. Sandman going to work this morning. That's exercise rider Froylan Garcia for the Marcassi barn. We're going to watch Sandman do one of his final preps for the 151st Kentucky Derby, and of course it's during the designated Oaks and Derby training time, so it's a time of the morning where only those horses can be on the racetrack. It just clears the way for them to get their preparations in for the biggest race of their lives and for their owner, trainer, and jockeys as well.
Yeah, you know, the backside is just such a fun place to be for these weeks. Not only, you know, for this time, but throughout. I think one thing I love about it, Travis, is they got their names on their saddle towels. They've got something very clearly recognizable in terms of that highlighter yellow or that Barbie pink that we see with the Oaks fillies. It just makes it fun where you can know the horses that you're looking at. All eyes are on them. You can focus in that sea of chaos that is the morning workout exercise routines of the thoroughbred.
Barbie pink. Interesting.
It's pretty good, right?
Sure. Sandman is not Barbie pink. That's a striking gray. When it comes to race calling, you try and identify as much as you can on horses. And the one thing I noticed watching Sandman's replays is his face is just a little bit brighter than the rest of them. It's almost like this washed out, you can see his forehead even on camera there as he waits to come onto the racetrack. Pretty cool customer there, which is interesting because Tappets sometimes are not. They have a reputation for being a little bit cantankerous at times. In fact, if you watch Sandman's races, and even in his win in the Arkansas Derby, it's not like he ran in a straight line coming down this stretch. He did a little bit of a duck in and a duck out. And if you watch some of his other replays at Churchill, I think one of the things, at least my read on him, is I don't know if he loves getting some dirt in his face. So I might anticipate Jose Ortiz moving him to the outside and be in the clear, which is where you probably want to be if you're a closer in the Kentucky Derby anyway, unless you have someone like Calvin Burrell riding you who has no issues going down inside and weaving through traffic.
It's a big gamble to keep to that rail, right, with the closer that you're going to have that C part for you. But we did see Rich Strike get it done on the inside, right? Of course, Mystic Dan, that was a more forward trip, getting it done on the inside. Mind that bird, as you mentioned. I think Sandman, you know, the maturity is the question. The greenness that we've seen, those Tappets, you know, they need some clearing, they need some space. So.
The faster it goes for Sandman, the faster it goes up front, the better it is for Sandman, and possibly one of those contributors is Owen Almighty, and Megan's got more on him.
Yeah, this is a horse that we haven't really gotten a lot to talk about on him. And I just wanted to kind of chat about his demeanor. You see Brian Lynch on the pony next to him, and you can just tell what a horseman Brian Lynch is. He's just very calm, cool, and collected. This Owen Almighty was kind of nuzzling on Brian Lynch's thigh as we're ducking, as he was kind of coming out to the track. So he just is very much taking it all in. And a horse that let's see how things shake out today. But I really am interested to see how he continues on to train. Sandman right here coming around behind him. Guys, I haven't been able to say enough good things about Sandman as we see Owen Almighty there, about Sandman as he comes on for his final drill. And I think, guys, it's going to be really interesting to see. We spoke to Mark Cassey yesterday, and he mentioned this is going to just kind of be maintenance for him. So don't expect to see a whole lot from him. I think he's going to save up that big effort, of course, coming here the next Saturday.
Thanks, Megan. And when we hear the term maintenance, when it comes to workouts for horses, it's mostly exactly what it says: maintaining that fitness. They're not trying to increase the fitness. They're not trying to relax the fitness. They just want to keep things as they are. The serious work has been done. The horse is in shape and ready to roll. Now it's just about maintaining.
Yeah, maintaining, right? It's just like when you're hitting the gym, everything is going good. You're looking good in the mirror, and you just keep your routine going forward. You're not adding weight to your or adding reps to your routine. So that's a good way to put it.
Can't relate. Sandman, Froylan Garcia, once again, the exercise rider for the Marcassi barn. I did not get a distance that he was going to go, so we're going to have to see how that unfolds. Just checking my notes here. If I had a text come in, and no distance mentioned, so we'll see how far he goes. Typically, maintenance is anywhere from the 4 to 5 furlong with a decent gallop out, so we'll see if that pans out for Sandman. Jockey Jose Ortiz will be on him. And Jose had a great year last year in Kentucky. He burst on the scene here and started winning races left and right. Had a phenomenal winter down in New Orleans. So Jose Ortiz, he's feeling it right now, and that's a good combo as we talk about the Kentucky Derby. Of course, during this Oaks and Derby training period, it's not just Sandman. Here's American Promise. We talk about the pace. I believe Dwayne Lucas's workout with American Promise the other day tips their hand. I'm expecting to see those tannish silks of American Promise somewhere near the front early on.
Yeah, I got to think that he wants to be forward, not necessarily on the lead, but right there with it and contending for the front. This is a big horse, good-looking chestnut in this field. Great shots captured by Barbara Livingston of this guy, just sort of hanging out in the pasture and kicking off the air. He's full of energy, so I'm excited to see how he's handling himself on this track. He looked very good in that Virginia Derby. The way he came out of that turn was so sharp, so quick. They just couldn't get him, and that's the type of move you got to make, scoot away from that field, really break their hearts if you're going to try to do it on the front end in the Kentucky Derby.
It's an interesting Derby this year because a lot of the major players are horses that want to come from off the pace. Typically, it's the other way around. The major contenders are a little bit more forwardly placed. A lot of the prep races this year were what we call collapses, where the speeds sort of came apart and the closers were able to capitalize. Sandman took advantage of that in the Arkansas Derby. Right behind him, though, is Publisher for trainer Steve Asmussen, who's got 2 horses in this year's Kentucky Derby. Publisher, if you haven't seen a replay of the Arkansas Derby, go back and watch just Publisher and watch the ride by Flavian Pratt. Flavian Flavian is an Eclipse Award-winning rider for a reason. He's just fantastic. But he made every right move on Publisher and was able to overcome the deficit early. He's on the track as well here this morning. They were 16 lengths out of it at one point, as I'm told. We do have Publisher out in the racetrack. I thought we were going to show him. I'm talking Publisher like I'm just talking for the sake of talking, which I do very well. But American Promise will help set it up for Publisher. Anyway, Publisher, one of 2 deep closers for Tistastic. Oh, there he is, for Steve Asmussen, Tistastic being the other.
Yeah, they put the blinkers on in that Arkansas Derby. I got to think it was from the gates to try to get him away cleanly, right? That's sort of been one of his problems, is just having a little bit of trouble of getting out of there sharp. You could make the case that, Sandman made the early move. He made a very good, strong early move on the backside in that Arkansas Derby, and that was the winning moment while Publisher was further back and following him throughout. So he was just sort of trailing behind, never able to get even with him. I think Publisher is interesting in here. He's going to have to move forward. He's going to have to break cleanly. And I don't like horses who are getting the blinkers didn't necessarily get him out any sharper in that Arkansas Derby. So I think there's still some question marks with Publisher-based training forwardly.
Speaking of question marks, Built is in the Derby if they want to run, but there's been some speculation they might bail on that and go to the Pat Day Mile. But as of right now, Built is in the Kentucky Derby. This is a horse that got a lot of headlines earlier in his career, and now he's sort of tailed off a little bit.
Yeah, Built is one. You can just see through his pace lines, right? That distance is the question mark, right? Where he's got strong pace figures through the early parts of the race, and they really drop at the end. Possibly one who's moved too early, which is could be a deadly mistake in terms of a fairgrounds racetrack with that long stretch. Maybe if he just times that move perfectly, he'll be able to sustain that bid 1.25 miles. But Built is one that has not moved forward since that Gunrunner win.
And we see Sandman has now broken off from his pony and is on the precipice of a maintenance breeze. So
yeah.
Looking good, too.
Yeah, I watched him work in the last week, and it was very easy, right? He just looks like he's moving slow, but put a fine time. I think it was 49 seconds through four furlongs. Carries himself with tons of confidence, and just seems to be doing what he does easily. So that's definitely all the signs that this is maintenance mode for Sandman. So he's been holding great form, and that's all we've heard from Cassie throughout the winter at Oaklawn Park, and he seems to be feeling good here at Churchill Downs. But the question mark about whether he can win on this track, if this is his preferred surface, is I think one you've got to consider.
In horse racing, the term steam is referred to a first-time starter that everybody is talking about having some real ability. This horse was steamed on debut last year here at Churchill in June. He went off at nearly even money, finished 5th that day, showed a little bit of speed, went up to Saratoga, set a perfect pocket trip, and won second time out right off the rip. Just a little bit in and out since then, and look, here's a spade. 2 of his worst races came right here at Churchill Downs in those stakes last year, the Iroquois and the Street Sense, where he lost to Sovereignty and Tistastic in one of them.
Yeah, he's one who knocked me out of my multi-race wagers when he didn't get it done on debut, because he was moving quite well in the morning. He had a good spot, just didn't want to go by that forward Dale Romans horse. So you can see he's moving with ease. He's not being asked. He's doing it on his own here. Really not building anything too impressive down the stretch. We'll see how he finishes through the wire. That's something I like to look for, Travis, is sort of their energy through the wire. Do they have a sense where that wire it is? Does it sort of build their adrenaline? Does it get them kicking forward? You can see no movement by the exercise rider in terms of the hands. He comes through fine. And another thing I like to watch, Travis, is what's their energy on the backside after the work? How far do they go? Do they get to the track kitchen? I think that's sort of the high watermark that you like to see. So this seems like a very easy on the slow side. I would say it's probably similar to that 49 102 that we saw.
That's
from
exactly
Sandman
it.
Last time.
Christine just texted me 102.2 for 5 furlongs on Sandman. Who's not exactly a speed horse. I don't think we were expecting anything super fast here. And like we had said before, just maintenance, keeping things going.
Keeping things going, doing it happy, doing it easy. That seems to be what Mark Cassidy is saying, that he wants to see a happy horse who's within himself, and that's what we've got.
13.3, 26, 138, and 102.2 from Kevin Kirstein. Thank you for that, KK, as Sandman. That was live texting in the middle of the work. What a talent that Kevin Kirstein is.
Hey, well, I thought you were going to compliment my internal clock. I just nailed that one without a watch.
Yeah, you were clocking it in your head. Here's Built Again. I don't know whether or not we can expect him in the Kentucky Derby. The Eclipse Thoroughbred partners who own Built also have journalism. So we'll see whether or not he actually runs. I'm also getting some texts that there's some big guns on the racetrack right now. Some of the Bob Baffert horses have arrived on the racetrack as well. You could see Built, a little bit of a duck in there. Maybe just feeling good this morning, or perhaps some activity in the home stretch. We do have a crowd that comes out every morning to watch these workouts on the front side.
So maybe he winked at a fan there when he was turned to the side. Now, they put the blinkers on ahead of that Louisiana Derby. They wanted him just to stay focused and stay attentive. And sometimes you'll see this when you've got question marks about the distance. Maybe he's losing his focus, getting a little distracted. Maybe that will help him to sort of go further and really carry out his run. It didn't in the Louisiana Derby. Also, it might help him relax and not move too quick. So we didn't see that work, but sometimes second-time blinkers, you do see that improvement that you were hoping for the first time.
Wayne Catalano, he's had some Derby starters before. And here we are. Here's journalism.
There he is.
Good to see him out on the racetrack. He arrived at Churchill Downs late yesterday afternoon, and they're wasting no time getting him acquainted with the surface here beneath the Twin Spires. I mean, what can you say? He's the favorite for a reason. He overcame some real trouble last time with a nice-looking win. His race 2 back, arguably the most impressive prep of the entire 2-year-old and 3-year-old season for all of the horses in this year's Kentucky Derby. Michael McCarthy, the conditioner of journalism.
Yeah, I love just that initial move on the track. We talk about a horse's energy. I like to think in terms of alphas. They're all alphas, right? These thoroughbreds are sort of bred to be alphas, be the best and the sharpest in their pack. How do they show it? They puff out their chest, right? They have a little bit of a strut in their stride, and the neck bowed as well is another way that they sort of show it. And that's what we saw From journalism, yeah. I think that is exactly what you want to see for him for his first appearance on the track. He's gliding over it, doing it easy, and trying to tell the world that he's the top horse out there. So journalism, Travis, one of the things that I like to look for is pace. I like to see that upward swing in terms of building the pace, going stronger throughout, especially to get a mile and a quarter. And he's not only gone quick early, he's built some big late paces. So he checks all the boxes except for one. He's only beat those short fields at California. Can he handle 20 horses? That's a question mark.
I mean, I think they'll be watching his post position keenly. You do not want to be inside with him. He's just a big mover. You can see it here even in this gallop. And I got to say, he looks great. If you watch his debut, he was sprinting that day at Santa Anita. And despite the fact going a distance shorter than he wants to go, he still came with interest late. And he's done nothing wrong when they finally did stretch him out. I think we're going to be, we are horse players here, and you can see his ears. He's enjoying this first trip around the track. We're horse players here, and he is going to be the favorite. His race in the San Felipe was just amazing. He beat Barnes and Rodriguez handily. Numbers-wise, he did step backward a little bit in the Santa Anita Derby. Now, he had some trouble. It wasn't the cleanest of trips out there. But I think it's fair as a horse player to question what happens next. Is there a return or an improvement back off that slight regression numbers-wise? Does it go the other way? If this is any indication, I have no concerns about whether or not he can step forward. But it is a question we have to ask ourselves as we talk about gambling on this race.
Yeah, and the full context, though, of the trip is that he did get stopped in that far turn, right? So his time was not as fast as he was sort of prepared to run in that one. I thought he would bounce after that initial San Felipe, right, that comeback, because McCarthy said he's like 75% cranked, right? And he ran a huge figure no matter where you're looking. So I thought he held form nicely in that one. Looking at Thorograph, he still kept within his previous top. So I think that's the sort of pattern that you want to look for. Maybe take a step a little bit back, but not too far back, right? It didn't take the starch out of you. You still got your run there, and I think every reason to move forward again.
If you're a Derby horse and you saw that horse moving around the track this morning, the intimidation factor probably just ramped up a little bit. Let's talk Burnham Square. He is galloping winner of the Bluegrass. I love the way this horse is coming into the race. He may not be fast enough at the end of the day, but there's no doubt he's going to be ready to roll. I love the way Ian Wilkes has conditioned him, bringing him to the race in terms of conditioning with racing and not just training. He put it all together last time, and there is something to be said about having Brian Hernandez on your back here at Churchill.
Yeah, there is something to be said. And Brian just got on for the first time with his last Breeze, where he's able to get him to relax and get him able to settle there. So I thought that was interesting. He's moving very well. He's really putting a sharp gallop forward. This is a very forward gallop that we're seeing from Burnham Square. So his energy is there after that big run of the Bluegrass. And what I loved about the Bluegrass, Travis, is Keeneland has been playing very forward going 2 turns, right? East Avenue was a beneficiary of that. Burnham Square, wide throughout, able to run that one down. I thought that was a huge effort. A very huge effort. He also ran down to Pan Street, so he's run down 2 good ones.
His Fountain Youth, excuse me, his stock sort of dropped after that race, but if you go back and watch that replay, he ran well. He stuck with Sovereignty to the wire.
Yeah, he made the winning move, right? I think it was just he flattened out, just sort of stalled out at the top of the stretch. Maybe he just didn't have his full air that day, but he definitely did at Keeneland.
Here is Tiztastic. Excuse me, you know about Tiztastic. He won the Louisiana Derby.
Yeah, these Louisiana preps, the fairgrounds preps that, I watch very closely working at fairgrounds, they're curious. We just saw a lot of fast times or slow times. When Disco Time was able to win the Lecomte, the times were very slow. I thought that in the Gunrunner and in the Risen Star and possibly in the Louisiana Derby, we saw some very fast times. We saw very fast early paces. We saw days where on our big days where the rail was the place to be. Tiztastic had his stablemate Yinzer prompting that pace, and they went quick. He was able to break very, very relaxed, settle on the rail, and get the jump on Chunk of Gold. Now, I thought he had a very strong gallop out. He's an interesting one. He might be track specific, though.
Maybe. I love the way he's been conditioned as well. Excuse me. Steve Asmussen just knows how to bring horses into peak form as they progress throughout their career. He's done that time and time again, starting with Gunrunner and beyond. Another horse that's just done very little wrong overall. Horse we saw last year here at Churchill Downs win that Street Sense in most impressive fashion is Sovereignty. Glowing reviews of his workout this most recent Saturday. One of the major players, probably vying for third favorite or so.
Yeah, I think third favorite. I think him and Rodriguez will sort of be in that third, fourth favorite sort of spot. Tappan Street, I think, right in that mix too. We'll see which way the market goes with him. Yeah, not one who's always been, a big bright star in terms of his morning moves, and he looked very good here at Churchill, especially through the wire and into that first turn. Watching that Florida Derby, he was ready and following Tappan Street throughout. He had his eyes on him. He was in the spot he needed to be. He really couldn't make up any ground. Neither could he in the gallop out. So I think Sovereignty, his form is really good. He's moving quite well, but it's hard for me to want to take him over Tappan Street right now.
It's tough to close at Gulfstream, though.
It is tough to close.
That's a track that does favor forwardly placed horses. Tappan Street had that forwardly placed trip, although he wasn't exactly on top of the pace. He was at least ahead of Sovereignty by a few lengths or so. And it just feels like Sovereignty, like Burnham Square, is just a reliable off-the-pace horse. You know they're going to come with their run. It's just going to be a question of whether or not it's good enough.
Whether or not it's good enough, whether or not they draw the right spot, whether or not that trip works out. So definitely in the hands of Bill Mott. Pairing up tops is what I'm seeing in terms of Thorograph. Every reason to move forward from that. And he seems to be showing himself very well since that last run.
All the Godolphin horses look good on the race. East Avenue is another good-looking horse, too. This is just a powerful breeding program. Sovereignty figures. He might be the beneficiary of the other Godolphin horse, East Avenue, maybe gassing up that pace a little.
Yeah, I love thinking about East Avenue. I mean, he's been so neat, right? He's been very good at fairgrounds. I think there's some conversation that possibly he's better in Kentucky. He was working sensationally, really touting himself at fairgrounds. And I think, hearing Walsh talk about it, maybe he just didn't put enough into him ahead of that run of the Risen Star, right? That maybe he just had him 50% cranked as opposed to 75% cranked. He put a lot more into him ahead of that run of the Bluegrass. I thought he ran very well. Does he need the lead? He was handled aggressively from the gate to get to the front in that Bluegrass. Can he pass horses? He hasn't done it in a race, so I think that's a huge question mark.
We mentioned Tiztastic earlier. We got some more video of Tiztastic doing a little bit more of a serious move than just walking around the racetrack. Tiztastic for Steve Asmussen, and I mentioned it before, but Steve is just really good at allowing these horses to develop. And if you look at the PP profiles of both of his publisher and Tiztastic, they have taken virtually 0 steps backward. Every race has been an improvement on the prior, which is a pattern or an angle you like to see coming into the Kentucky Derby. You want horses to peak on that first Saturday in May, as opposed to earlier on in their career. Tiztastic, though, worked with Publisher the other day in a much talked about work because spade to spade, Publisher worked better. But that doesn't mean much when you consider that Tiztastic doesn't seem to be as much of a workhorse as Publisher. Publisher always seems sharp and keen in his workouts. But Tiztastic was right there with him. It's not like he got blown away. And he'll be coming from off the base.
Yeah, well, at Fairgrounds, he worked very well. He was better than Magnitude, ahead of Magnitude's win in the Risen Star, right? And that was a huge figure, right, that Magnitude was able to run. He held him off on the inside very well. But win with Publisher has always been better, and those have been at Oaklawn Park. Again, it could be track-specific. At Fairgrounds, maybe he just loved that surface better, and maybe that's what we saw in terms of his work at Churchill. Maybe he doesn't love this track quite so much. He's ran decent over it, hasn't got the wins. But then if you think about that work, what did he get out of it? He was really had to be asked more in that work to catch up with Publisher, to sort of move forward, to keep up with Publisher, who sort of seemed to be waiting on him in that move. So maybe Tiztastic got a lot out of that work, and Publisher was sort of already there, already in that form. I think that's something to keep in mind as we watch him over the next week.
Yeah, it's all part of the puzzle, right?
Yeah.
You have to figure out and hyperanalyze all of these all of these interactions amongst horses on the racetrack. We mentioned how most of the major players this year are horses like to come from off the pace. There is one, though, that figures to be close to the pace, if not on the lead, and that this fellow here Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, yeah. I mean, we haven't seen the Wood Memorial. He's won the Wood Memorial last out on the lead with Mike Smith up, his first time up on Rodriguez. We haven't seen the Wood produce big success here in the Kentucky Derby for quite some time, which might be a little bit of a question mark, but it was interesting to see Baffert send this one to the Wood as opposed to the Santa Anita Derby, right? He had two others in that Santa Anita Derby. And I thought he ran very well. I thought he moved great in the gallop out, kept his lead over Grande, who was coming at him. And that recent work from him was so strong, just a high cruising speed and deep into the backside after that move. He was still moving well and still being asked. So they're going to try to get him ready for this 1.25 miles. And Baffert, lead horse, the story ends with success. What do you think?
If you're Bob Baffert, you win races on or near the lead, and I would imagine that Mike Smith has one way to go with him coming out of the gate. As I map out this pace, I just can't find a scenario where he's not on the engine early. Mike Smith has a history of doing that. Of course, he set the pace with Palace Malice. He set the pace with some 3-year-olds this spring on the Kentucky Derby Trail. And after a win like that, I don't think you want to take the speed off Rodriguez when it comes to the Kentucky Derby. As you can see, each and every day, more and more people trickle into Churchill Downs as we get closer to the Kentucky Derby. And I got to say, they saw a treat today, the way journalism worked. I mean, we saw all the heavy hitters. We saw Burnham, we saw Sovereignty, we saw Sandman. But man, oh man, journalism looked good.
Yeah, and if you like to take a swing against chalk, that's exactly what he wanted to see. Yeah. Because we're just seeing the talk really gathering towards journalism. He's going to be a heavier and heavier favorite, especially if he continues to look like this. So you're going to have a shorter price on that one.
Journalism is likely the favorite. Sandman is likely the second favorite. Sandman was our lone Kentucky Derby worker today, and I know Megan's on the backstretch. She probably saw the workout as well on video. Sandman looking good, and what Mark Casse said was just a maintenance breeze, 102.4 for Sandman this morning.
Mark Casse was nailed it on the head. He's been training this horse incrementally through his races, and he's just really come into form through that. He has not been pushing him, and I mentioned this when I first saw him. This is a big, scopy colt. You do not want to do too much with a colt like this because he wants to press go, and you want him to be able to press go the first Saturday in May. So I think that this horse is exactly where you would want to see him coming into this type of effort. He looks fantastic. I actually, yesterday when I was catching up with Mark Casse, it was mentioned that even the likes of Hall of Fame trainer Bill Mott had mentioned that this was the standout physically when he was looking around for those Kentucky Derby contenders right alongside Sovereignty. So highest marks, guys, that you could possibly imagine for a trainer to be able to say, yeah, my other horsemen are talking about this colt as well. He looks fantastic. This was right, I believe, where they wanted him to be coming into next weekend. Now it's 10 days out. We put him in some bubble wrap, and guys, we hope for the best looking to next Saturday.
You can see Sandman has a little bit of that tap it in him. His head looks around a little bit. He likes to take in his surroundings. He's going to have to figure some of that stuff out in the Kentucky Derby, where there's virtually no margin for error. If you recall, in the Arkansas Derby, he did do a little bit of duck in and duck out once he made the lead. Jose Ortiz going to be on him again. Sandman, good effort.
Yeah, I thought it was just a great move, a sort of Kentucky Derby winning move in that Arkansas Derby and sort of building that run through the turn and really carrying it out in the stretch. So he could get it done. It would be exciting to see that gray flashing that late kick.
We do have more horses scheduled to arrive at Churchill Downs, including last year's 2-year-old champion Citizen Bull. He's expected to arrive, I believe it's tomorrow. But of course, arriving yesterday, and let's take one more look at him because he is the favorite and because he looked so good. Journalism. I'm a race caller, so I watch these things from the 6th floor. I'm going to be hard pressed to find someone that didn't like what they saw from his first day on the track. What'd you think, Megan?
Guys, I know that it's chalky, but I think that you can get out of building a ticket around this horse in any type of way. This colt has no obvious flaws. He really does feel like that contender that in 2014 to 2018, there were a string of favorites that had taken the Kentucky Derby. And when you look at that form, that 108 speed figure he earned in his comeback race, I might add, you have to go back to those caliber of horses to find that kind of speed. speed, guys. He is just flat out faster than this group at this point, and he has given us no indication that he is slowing down from that. Especially, we took a look at that 47 and change move, the 4 furlong move that he put in at Santa Anita before getting here, and that was a maintenance drill for him. That would have been a strong drill for any 3-year-old out there. So he is just one of those horses that you don't want to sit there and poke holes into a horse that is just going to be right there. And, you know, Mike McCarthy, this horse was happy, had mentioned he was happy and healthy coming in. It looks like none of that has changed. He had so much energy. He had so much energy coming to the track this morning. So if you're still on journalism, there are no indications that he is not doing anything but moving forward.
Journalism figures to be, what do you think, 5 to 2-ish? I mean, I see a lot of lines out there having him around the 3 to 1 range after this, and if we keep seeing this, I'm going to go 5 to 2.
Yeah, I'm a believer in 5 to 2 now. Before I was like, it felt like a wide open group. That's all what we've been saying, but then all of a sudden everybody's getting on top of journalism. I think it'll be like 4 to 1, but I'm thinking maybe 5 to 2 now.
It's getting real now. They're all here, most of them anyway. A couple more to trickle in, but we're close. And when you see them all on the racetrack, you can sort of feel the butterflies a little bit in your stomach flutter around because the Derby is close. And if you have opinions, we mentioned this earlier, what better way to take those opinions and turn them into your share of $250,000?
Yeah, $5,000 to get involved in that Kentucky Derby betting challenge. And this is something Joe K talks about a lot. You don't just have to pony up that money all by yourself. You can get together with a few friends. Maybe you've got some friends who want to be here on Derby Day. They have no opinions. You've got the opinions. Make them pony up the cash. Get involved with this and take a swing for $250,000.
Who's your current pick? Subject to change, of course. We got, who's your current pick?
I do like what I'm seeing from Burnham Square. I think that price is going to be right for him. Tappan Street or Tappan Street. I'll get that right one of these days. It's still very interested in me. Journalism right now in my head is casting a shadow on those because that looked pretty good. But those 3 are the ones that I'm centering around.
Have you looked at the opening night card yet?
I've glanced at it. It looks solid. A couple good turf races, but not a full look at all.
Yeah, of course, an opening night on Saturday kicks off at 5 o'clock. There's racing, but there's also the draw. Excuse me, for the Oaks and the Derby. That'll take place at about 7 o'clock between races 5 and 6. So once you cash your pick 5, your early pick 5 bet after race number 5, come on out and watch the draw for both the Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. We'll all be here, God willing. Of course, it is Wednesday.
Yeah.
A lot going on. We got to make it, but we'll make it.
We'll make it.
Yeah.
We always do, right? Someone will carry us across the wire if it gets crazy.
Yeah, it's all part of the fun. Kentucky Derby week here in Louisville is it's unlike anything else, and you just feel the energy. No matter where you go in town, someone says something about the Derby. I even heard it at the restaurant last night. The guys, I'm not ready for this. It's already next weekend.
Yeah.
Well, get ready, buddy, because here it comes. Megan, I got to say, great morning out there. We saw all the heavy hitters for this year's Kentucky Derby. We talked about it as well, but I got to give him one more nod. Most impressive debut on the track for journalism.
Like I said this morning, he's a storm. He's hurricane journalism. And the president of the White Bridal Club is Mike McCarthy. I'm sure they brought plenty of bleach for that. But guys, I got to see him in the flesh for the first time this morning. He is everything and more. He just solidifies his position at the top of this group. And like I mentioned, I don't see him stopping anytime soon. But I do want to say, I am going to keep an eye on Bob Baffert over there with his trainee in Rodriguez. I think that it would be a mistake to not make sure that you're considering some of those speed horses that you could see kind of progressing and being able to manage that distance. I think that, sure, you build your ticket around maybe a closer like Sandman, maybe a tactical grinding closer kind of like journalism, but don't forget those speed horses here as we march forward towards Friday and Saturday. Tomorrow, Thursday, should be another slower day, but the action is going to certainly heat up here on the backside this coming Friday and Saturday. So guys, another wonderful, calm day. We got to see a lot of our favorites as they come into Louisville, but another great morning and can't wait to keep marching on.
Thanks, Megan. Good job this morning. We'll see you throughout the rest of the week. One quick note about the pace, because it's obviously pace makes the race. Everybody's talking about there being a fast pace. I'm starting to wonder if everybody else sees the same thing and all of a sudden a horse like Rodriguez gets loose on the lead. Wouldn't totally shock me to see him a length and a half clear by the time they hit that first turn.
Well, you know, it's those inside horses, right? If there's a lot of speed on that inside, it's just going to heat up because they're going to feel that throng of horses come down, and they've got to get out of it. They got to get to the front of it. So that the draw is just going to be huge. You got to tune in for that on Saturday.
The inverse applies there too. If you go back and watch past Kentucky Derbies, when the speed draws outside, they really have to use their speed to get that position. And when you're crossing over, you're closest to the crowd, the place is screaming. Epic Ride last year, as an example, was a horse that gassed that pace because he had to get that early position. Firing Line several years ago, same thing for that far outside post. That if the speed draws way outside, you can almost assert that there's going to be a decent amount of pace.
It's the Derby. There's going to be a decent amount of pace. They're going to go fast.
Journalism, of course, the big favorite so far leading up to this Kentucky Derby. He made his debut today, and what a debut it was. He didn't do much. He just sort of moved his way around there, but he did so like a horse that deserves the favoritism for the 151st Derby. Join us again tomorrow. I'm back for my last day. Tony and Caitlin will be back with me. Post time for the work show at 6:45. Thanks for joining us this morning, everybody. Have a great Wednesday, and we will see you tomorrow from the Ville.